Broadcasting live from downtown Las Vegas, you're tuned in to Gorilla Cross Radio.
Yo, you tuned in to Gorilla Cross Radio.
Wednesday night, coming our way live from Sin City. It is Hump Day, and it is Straight Bet Sports with Jose V, with no Jose V here. My name's Chris Winn, filling in, hanging out with Quan here in a studio loaded with the purple and gold, my friends. A lot of Laker gear. I'm liking it. Some Wu-Tang swag. Can't go wrong. As we're on the eve of one of the big four sports starting their season off with Major League Baseball set to have first pitch tomorrow with 2 games going off. So we'll get into that. I want to get into a little bit NBA, obviously, possibly some NHL, what they're going to do as, of course, we're still in the midst of the global pandemic around the country, around the world, for that matter. And it's going to be interesting to see how the big four sports handle this, because we have been, obviously, we've seen some MMA. We've seen UFC. We've seen some MLS soccer. We've seen soccer and football across the world. And we've seen, of course, some other sports also that have been able to start up. But as far as the big four, right, the ones that Americans, let's be honest, those Americans get fired up when you have the possibility of seeing your favorite NBA players, Major League Baseball players, NHL players, and then eventually we shall see what happens with the NFL. So that's all on the way. Going to discuss it from a COVID-19 angle here on Straight Bet Sports. But we're brought to you by Joshua LaFond with Simply Vegas Real Estate, a realtor here to help educate current and future Las Vegas locals on selling and investing in real estate. You're probably asking yourself, educate? What do you mean? Well, yes, there's a surprising amount of adults that when it comes to real estate don't know the real right questions to ask, don't know where to start, and they think they need a lot of cash to buy a house in Nevada, which simply isn't true. So Josh has decided to take his responsibility to teach his clients what they need to know, and equally important, what they need to ask to help ensure making their home ownership dreams a reality. Call or text Josh LaFond today, 702-813-0533. This paid advertisement from Joshua LaFond from Simply Las Vegas Real Estate, 702-813-0533. As I said, we're a matter of 24 hours away, Quan, from Major League Baseball. Dr. Fauci, the esteemed physician who whoever has learned about the last 4 months, is going to be throwing out the first pitch at Nationals Park as the defending World Series champions, the Washington Nationals, take on the New York Yankees in that first game. Then the second game, obviously a lot of us here on the West Coast are going to be focused in on, because it's going to feature the Los Angeles Dodgers, who, if you've been paying attention to any of the sports betting apps or sports betting shows or sports betting anything, the Dodgers are pretty much the odds-on favorite to win the whole thing. They'll be taking on their arch rival, the San Francisco Giants, coming up in the late game. So 2 games to start off the season in Major League Baseball. We've seen over the past, 4 or 5 days, there's been some preseason games, they're calling them. And so, which is kind of strange, right? Because they had started spring training and had it going. And then, of course, we had right around mid-March, pretty much around the country is when the shutdown started because of COVID-19. And obviously we saw the impact that it had on sports, whether it was the NBA shutting down basically within 24 hours of Rudy Gobert testing positive for coronavirus. And then it was just a chain reaction after that, where you had all the major leagues basically shutting things down, as was Major League Baseball, who was in the midst of spring training, and just a matter of basically a couple weeks from starting their season. So they're able to kind of get back together, and the format obviously changed big time in Major League Baseball because instead of playing the 162-game season where you were set up to play, obviously, a huge number of teams in the American League or National League, whichever league you're in, and by your own rules, that's not the case anymore. Now, we're talking about a 60-game sprint to the finish, and then we have the Major League Baseball playoffs. So, obviously, the dynamics change hugely. Also, you have teams playing just cross-division, right, where you have the National League East playing the American League East, and so on and so forth across the board. So the schedule completely changed. It's completely shortened, and that's going to have an impact, in my opinion, on what exactly happens here, considering that there's so many factors that come into play in a Major League Baseball season. And, oh yeah, by the way, there's still an ongoing pandemic in the country. So there's that uncertainty that everyone's dealing with. And you got star players that have circumstances in their lives, i.e. people like Mike Trout, whose wife happens to be pregnant and is scheduled to give birth sometime in August. So that's going to impact teams also. So I got to believe it's been kind of fun. I don't know if fun's the right word. It's been intriguing, to say the least, how people have been looking at this and trying to handicap it or predict what's going to happen in the Major League Baseball season, given you have all these teams dealing with this something that we've never dealt with before, really, in 100 years. And it's not even really like the same thing as what we dealt with back in 1918 with the Spanish flu, because obviously we're in a different place here in 2020 from a technology standpoint, from a sports standpoint, from an American society standpoint. And of course, we have all of the other social issues that we're dealing with here in the United States when it comes to Black Lives Matter, when it comes to, social injustice with law enforcement, when it comes to the Me Too movement, when it comes, all these things that we're dealing with on the, in the midst of COVID-19. So, and that's all being integrated into the sports world, right? And that's kind of really been a big part of what the athletes have been thinking about and talking about, and not just the athletes. We have, as myself, as someone who works in radio here in Vegas, and just those of us that are citizens here are dealing with this on a daily basis. And I used the word earlier in the show, uncertainty. That's what there's so much uncertainty out there. Like we just don't know what's we're in store for from a day-to-day lifestyle. I mean, everybody's all over the place around the country. There's, one state's doing this, another state's doing that. Quan and I talked before the show. We talked about the Toronto Blue Jays, right?
Hey.
Baseball season's starting tomorrow, okay? Only 4 teams are playing tomorrow, but then on Friday, it pretty much gets started in earnest, right, where people are playing everybody across the country. Blue Jays don't have a place to play. They don't have a stadium right now. They don't have a baseball field. I mean, there's been discussions where they could play. Their AAA team, I believe, is in. I don't know if it's even their AAA team. Is it their AAA team that plays in Buffalo? But there is. It's right across. It's right across the water there from Toronto, and it would make sense. I mean, the Buffalo Bills, they play a ton of preseason games in Buffalo. I mean, the Buffalo Bills play a ton of preseason games in Toronto in the NFL. It seems like it would be a perfect fit, right? It's a AAA stadium, so you'd think their amenities are fine from that standpoint. But as of right now, there's no deal. There's nothing planned. There's nothing set up. So it's kind of like what are they going to do? And you brought up point about this could have long-term ramifications, right, for the Blue Jays. As far as this is, because we don't know how long this is going to last with COVID-19. We don't know. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. It could be something that could leak into next season, given that the baseball season starts in March, of next year. So we'll see how that all shakes out, right? I mean, you would expect. I mean, I can't fathom, right? I can't fathom that the Blue Jays aren't going to play. So you gotta believe they're going to figure something out. And I think it's going to be Buffalo. I mean, there's. But I don't understand how you can say, oh yeah, the Maple Leafs can play in the NHL, and you can have Toronto be a hub city for the NHL.
City.
You know what I mean?
Hub City.
Yeah, hub city.
Get it?
You're putting half the teams. You're putting the Eastern Conference teams, okay, in Toronto to play a bunch of games, and it's theoretically it's a bubble, which is different than Major League Baseball because Major League Baseball doesn't really have a bubble. That's not their approach that they're taking. Major League Baseball, it's pretty much, you're going by the standards and the restrictions of your individual locality, where you're playing, whether it's in California, whether it's in, Arizona, whether it's in Michigan, whether it's in Pennsylvania, and then obviously whether it's in Canada and where the Blue Jays play in Toronto. So that is the focus of what those teams are doing as far as Major League Baseball is concerned. But it's not like the NBA, or what the NHL is going to do as far as you got players in specific hotels. There's protocols. These NBA guys, they can't really, they're under the thumb. Like they can't really go. You're not going out and freewheeling it, right? You're not seeing NBA players out and about on the town tearing it up in Orlando. And for all intents and purposes, Major League Baseball players, they have that option. There's no restrictions as far as where you go, or you can sleep in your bed. You can stay with your family, and so it. I guess my point is I don't understand how, whether it's the Canadian government, whether it's the province of Ontario, whether it's the city of Toronto, can make this justification and say, well, yeah, Maple Leaf players, you guys do your thing, and you can play. And that's fine. But because we have half the teams in the NHL playing in Toronto, but the Blue Jays can't play their games at their baseball stadium with no fans? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't really get it.
Now, was Major League Baseball partly to blame? Like, why didn't you think about this earlier? This just came up about a week ago.
Yeah, and you would think from a logistics standpoint, that'd be kind of important, right?
Yeah.
One of your teams doesn't have a place to play, okay? Of all the things they're dealing with, look, I don't envy any of the executives at Major League Baseball or any of the owners or the powers that be in the sport having to deal with all these things they need to deal with because of COVID-19. But that being said, this just seems amateurish, doesn't it? I mean, it just seems like, how do you let it get to this point where we are not even 24 hours away from the first pitch, and you've got a team that's in limbo and doesn't even know if they're going to be able to know where they're going to be playing? Now, on the bright side of this, think about this. It doesn't matter where they play. It doesn't matter. You don't have fans. You know what I mean? And I brought this up earlier in the week when I was talking to some baseball fans. They could play at, just a very nice college baseball stadium somewhere in Toronto. You know what I mean? Or somewhere just over the border in New York from Ontario. As long as you have the ability to, to set up the media setup, because television's going to be huge with this, and that's, let's be, intellectually honest here. It's all about the media exposure, right? For all these sports, because there's no fans. There's not going to be a fan situation. Look, I see what they're doing. You got cardboard cutouts. You got fans who, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, Quan. You can buy a cardboard cutout at a lot of the major league stadiums this season. I think Fenway Park's charging $80 to put your face on a cardboard cutout behind home plate or somewhere in the stadium. I think
is that per game?
Yeah, they're doing it. You can. I think it's $80 total for the season.
Hey, that's not bad.
And I don't know if you have the option to put it behind home plate where it actually be seen, or they'll put it in like your seat. If you're a season ticket holder, they might put it in your seat. That whole setup. So they're definitely doing it at Fenway. I saw they're doing it at Dodger Stadium. So I would expect everybody else would follow suit, right? If you're a Detroit Tiger fan like me, and you're going to see your team win about 20 games, but you can look at your cardboard cutout every game throughout the 60-game season. But there's no fans. There's no concessions. You don't have to have people in the stadium other than the essential people, right, that are either doing the game or filming the game. And I was watching the Angels-Dodgers game yesterday. And I think it was Rojas and Mark Gubazar, the two guys that do the games for the Angels. Now, obviously during a regular season where there's 162 games, these broadcasters are all traveling with the teams, right? They're all going to the cities and all that and, traveling on the road. Not the case, apparently. Apparently, a lot of these announcers have booths set up in a sweet setup, much like here, where you can they're going to be doing the games from their home stadiums that are on the road. So, I mean, I don't really understand why they're doing that. I guess you're trying to cut corners or something, maybe financially, but it doesn't seem to me why it'd be a huge deal to have, your TV guys or your radio guys in the stadium doing the game. But that's what they're doing. So, what I'm trying to say is that there's all kinds of adjustments being made as far as the game day experience. And so, to your point, Guam, you're talking about how does it get to this point? It seems to me like it should be an easier fix than just, it shouldn't be like a hard thing to figure out. Like it just find a stadium that you can wire up for sound or for media, and that has adequate facilities as far as dugouts and clubhouses, and you don't even have to get super fancy with it. You can just get, it just has to be adequate. So
now their first home game is actually not till next Wednesday.
Okay, so they have
I guess a little longer.
They have a little leeway,
out,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
You got a few days to kind of figure this out.
But I'm wondering if they don't find anywhere, do they just play all road games?
That's definitely would be a possibility, right? You would expect that could be a road that they go down. And they were actually discussing this on national sports radio a few days ago, and they kind of poo-pooed it because they said you can't do it because of competitive balance. It would absolutely screw the Toronto Blue Jays, because you're playing all your games on the road. Again, I can go back to what I just said, though. There's no fans in the stands, but I guess there could be some added element to playing in familiar surroundings like your stadium. Whether it doesn't matter what team it is in Major League Baseball, it could be a good thing. So,
but aren't they playing on the road no matter where they go?
100%. Yeah.
I mean, even if they find a temporary home
exactly
in Buffalo, that's still playing on the road. So
they're pretty much their backs are against the wall no matter what. So, but I don't know. Again, I don't know what the laws are in Canada and what who has jurisdiction, whether it's the province of Ontario or the city of Toronto. But I gotta believe they're gonna try every which way but loose to find a way to get that team playing in Toronto. So that they're able to play at their stadium. I mean, I just don't, especially given that. How are you making the exception? How are you saying the Blue? I don't get it. How are you saying that the Maple Leafs can play, in Toronto? And they're going to be playing those games that they play in Toronto. They're going to be playing in probably two arenas. I think they're playing in, obviously, I don't even know. I think it's the Air Canada Centre, or what it used to be called, the Air Canada Centre in Toronto. And then there's the arena that the Toronto Marlies play in, who's their AHL affiliate, which I would expect they might play some games there. So it really kind of sucks, to be honest with you, jumping over to the NHL, that Vegas doesn't have the West Coast teams playing here. I mean, it's Vegas. You have so much access when it comes to hotel rooms, accommodations, arenas. I mean, you have T-Mobile. You could use the Orleans. You could use MGM Grand Garden Arena. You could use the Mandalay Bay. Thomas and Mack.
You got five legit places.
5 legit places that you could play hockey games in. And because of the situation here in the United States as compared to Canada, that's why they end up making the switch. And now it's going to be Edmonton and Toronto. So, but how do you justify that? How do you say, oh, yeah, we can have hockey players out there, in an enclosed space, by the way. That's another thing. It's the NHL. It's in an enclosed arena, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking about COVID-19 here. I think that would make a difference, right? When you're talking about being indoors as opposed to outdoor sports like football or baseball, which would, be beneficial, I think, to you when it comes to, avoiding some type of catastrophic outbreak from COVID-19 because of these sports playing. It just seems there's so much hypocrisy from a sports standpoint, as far as, the Blue Jays not playing. We'll see what happens. I think something's going to go down in the next, like you said, they don't play till next week, so they got some time to figure it out. There's another interesting angle about this too, still sticking on baseball, and that's baseball is the one sport where there have been actually significant players that are big time role players or star players that aren't playing. that have bailed out of the 60-game season. As you look at all the sports combined, the 3 sports that are about to start up in the coming weeks, it's Major League Baseball where that impact has really been felt, because there are pitchers, there are everyday players that have decided to say, hey, I'm just going to sit this one out. Whether it's Buster Posey in San Francisco, where there's been a number of players, pitchers, that it absolutely, Quan, impacts the integrity of the game, in my opinion, in Major League Baseball, and whether or not teams are going to be able to contend for a World Series championship. And of course, a lot of people out here in Vegas and around the country where their sports betting is legal, where it's going to affect win totals, and whether or not teams can win divisions, because these players have opted not to play. Hasn't really been the situation when you look at the NBA or the NHL, where we haven't had the big time players come out and say, I'm not playing, and I'm essentially bailing on my team. There's a lot of factors involved with that. Obviously, when you're talking about Major League Baseball, there's no bubble, as I pointed out. The NBA has a bubble. Okay, the NHL is going to have a bubble. Every NHL and NBA team is not playing in the bubble down in Orlando, okay, or in Edmonton or Toronto. So you've got less teams, less players, obviously, from an obvious standpoint. So, and it's a super duper shortened season if you're talking about the NBA and the NHL, as opposed, and then combined with playoffs, as opposed to Major League Baseball, which is essentially going to a 60-game regular season, and then we'll see from there. So those are the differences, but it's just interesting to me to see that Major League Baseball is still going forward, because there's a lot of people out there, let's be honest, there's a lot of people out there that aren't even sports fans that are saying, why are we even having sports? If we can't have fans in the stands for these sporting events, how come these guys are able to play? And you had the whole debate like a few weeks ago in the NFL about, oh yeah, these players after the games, you can't swap jerseys. Yet you're going to play a 60-minute game where you're just bouncing off each other. People are sweating on each other. People are smacking each other around. And then after the game, for like 4 minutes, you can't be like, yeah, I can't swap jerseys with you. It's preposterous on its face. And look, I'm not a doctor. Okay, I don't claim to be some expert on COVID-19. I'm just looking at this from a practical, logical standpoint, and I say to myself, it seems scattershot, right? It seems to me like it's all over the place when it comes to some of these rules and some of the approaches that we're taking with COVID-19 and sports.
Is the NFL handling it worse than anyone, though?
Well,
I feel like everyone else has handled it pretty well.
The thing is, you can make that case, but again, with the NFL, we still have time, right? They still have ways to kind of get around things or kind of work stuff out, and deal with that. So there's not that urgency that's in place. We're on the eve, right, of Major League Baseball, whether it's the NBA, the NHL. It's on the way. It's coming in the next couple weeks or in the next 24 hours.
WNBA is this week.
WNBA too. Yeah, WNBA too. And so WNBA, by the way, that's interesting too, Quan, because there have been some great players that have opted out for either medical conditions or because they're getting the runaround from the WNBA with Elena Deladon and that situation there. There's two hugely impactful players here in Vegas with the Aces. Okay, that by the way, that Jose and I, we cover every game, and we go down to and it's a fun product and it's great to cover. But your star center and Liz Campage and one of the best guards in the league, are out. They're not playing, and it destroys the Las Vegas Aces' chances to win. But I digress. The point being is, like, there's so many aspects of this that are getting played out and that don't make a ton of sense. Just for the average layperson like me and yourself, not doctors. I'm not someone who tries to claim that I know everything about the coronavirus and how what kind of impact it could have.
I do.
But I just ask. That's fine. I mean, And no, to be honest with you, if you go on social media, media with me too, I try to be a know-it-all.
We're experts.
And I try to light people up and get in arguments, and it's fun. But it's just crazy when you see situations like, these rules are getting put into place, yet there's an ultimate hypocrisy on the other side, i.e., like you brought up with the NFL, where guys are just hammering each other for 3 hours straight. And it would seem to me that it would be a cesspool for spreading a virus that, by the way, let's be honest, in the country right now, there's a lot of hotspots, right? There's a lot of places where coronavirus is going nuts around the country. Now, you can get into the politics of all of it and who's doing what and all that. That's not really a road I want to go down. But when it comes to sports, I mean, you would think sports would be a breeding ground for something like this. Given that there's so many restrictions around the country, whether it's restaurants, whether it's bars being closed, whether it's, whether it's you can't go to church, whether, you can go to the grocery store, but they've got all these stickers on the floor to tell you to stand 6 feet away from people. And you got all these precautions in everyday life in America. Yet tomorrow you're going to have baseball players on a baseball field together, and nobody's going to be wearing masks. In a matter of weeks, you're going to have, or not even weeks, a matter of days, you're going to have basketball players, okay? They're not wearing masks. The NBA games are starting up. We're watching the quote-unquote starter preseason games in Orlando right now. They're not wearing masks out there. Guys are out there running around. It's a situation where you got a bubble, okay? But if you're if people are, and by the way, they did have the numbers where they had 0 people, which is amazing to me, that you've had NBA players down there in Orlando for a couple weeks now, and nobody has tested positive for the coronavirus. That seems like impossible to me, but apparently that's the case.
So in a bubble might work.
Yeah, it is. There is evidence that it will. I'm telling you, Quan, though, I'm skeptic. I'm a skeptic about it. I just think that there's going to be situations that present themselves in the next few weeks with the comeback of the NBA and especially the NHL. Where the NHL is much more a contact sport than the NBA. And maybe I'm just being, pessimistic. Maybe I'm just not being positive. I just think there's going to be, and opportunities is not the right word. There's going to be situations that present themselves where players are going to be exposed, and it could end up being. I guess I'm playing the worst case scenario, where there could be some type of situation with COVID-19, and it's the nature of sports. So, I guess you look around the world though, and I don't want to get caught up in the weeds in this, but there have been other sports that have been playing. And they've had protocols as far as if players test positive, they've had, they get quarantined for 14 days and they take all the precautions and you haven't really seen it, whether it's, the KBO, whether it's the Nippon Baseball League in Japan, whether it's all the soccer leagues that have been playing around the world, whether it's Russian table tennis, right? They have protocols in place. So, and we haven't really heard of any of those sports where like it's destroyed the sport, where they said, we've got an outbreak of like 15, 20, 50 players, and so we got to shut the league down. Hasn't happened. So that's a good thing. So as you pointed out, there's a couple good things about this. The NBA not having any cases is good. And so people are going to be positive going into the season with it starting up that they're going to be able to dodge bullets. But sports are different, man. And you're talking about basketball. It's all different when you're talking about football because, and especially if you're talking about college football, you're telling me they're not putting the bubble on all the kids from the MAC conference to the SEC to the Big Ten to the Pac-12 across the board. You're not going to have college kids in a bubble. Okay, so football's a different animal, and
I don't
the
think
NFL's
we
a
see
different
any
animal.
college sports.
I don't think we do either. And you know why? I think you know why. Because they have to have the fans. College sports, especially college football and college basketball, are the revenue drivers in colleges and universities across the country. So while the NFL, right, and the NBA and the NHL And Major League Baseball can play without fans because they have, either huge contracts with television companies, with media companies, and they can offset financially the money. It's not the case in college. In college, those colleges like Ohio State, right? Like Michigan, like USC, like Alabama, okay? Like Georgia. They need those 100,000, 90,000 fans in the seats every Saturday for those games. And then, of course, all the adjoining businesses, whether it's the restaurants and everything around it, the bars, the stores, shops, everything. All that needs to be into place for those college programs to exist. Now, a lot of you out there might say, well, they have huge what's the word I'm looking for as far as universities that have huge endowments. A lot of universities have billions and billions and billions of dollars in endowments. It goes fast. Yeah. If you're, whether you're giving away free rides, whether it's academic free rides or athletic free rides or grants and things like that. There's a method to the madness when it comes to the money situation in college sports. And so that's why you're hearing that there's the take on the NFL is from most people is this, that the NFL is playing. We think the NFL is going to play. We don't know if there's going to be fans, which sucks, by the way, especially here in a place like Vegas, who has a brand spanking new, sweet stadium, Quan.
Beautiful.
In Allegiant Stadium here. And we've been fired up for like 3 years. I'm not even a Raiders fan. I despise the Raiders. Don't like them. Okay? And they're going to have a brand new sweet stadium, and you're not even going to have fans in it, possibly, for the first season. That just blows. And, you just multiply that by 32 times, okay, the other 32 teams around the country that aren't going to be having games in their stadiums. At least it seems for the near future. Okay, we still have time, so there may be something that breaks with COVID-19, so that NFL teams will be able to have fans.
And they did announce today that everyone has to wear a face mask for the places that do allow fans.
Yeah,
they're going to require face masks.
So let me pose
the crowd noise is going to be muffled a little bit.
So let me throw this at you out there in Gorilla Cross Radio Nation and also Yukon. How are you going to dictate that? How are you going to determine who gets to go to the games and who doesn't? Okay? And to your point, yes, there's discussions about teams and what they're going to be able to do. It's all over the place, though, as far as what your capacity is going to be. Team like the Raiders here at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. Oh, you can have 15, 20,000 fans. All right, go out to L.A., the new stadium out there where the Chargers and the Rams are going to play. Oh, you can have 15,000 fans. Or you can't have any fans because it's California.
Yeah. And
they're, they seem to take the lead on let's shut everything down just to be safe. That's their kind of mojo, right? In California. Go to Denver, go to Detroit, go to Chicago, go to New York. Everybody's going to have separate amounts of whether or not you can have a percentage or not of fans. And then, by the way, how do you determine who those fans are that get to go? There's thousands upon thousands of season ticket holders around the NFL, and you're going to tell one guy he and his family can go, but the other family, no, you can't go. There's some kind of a tier setup we got going on here. It's kind of absurd on its face.
They talked about a lottery.
To think about it. Yeah, but you know what I mean, though. It just this whole thing just seems crazy.
We're fighting. We're gonna fight.
Yeah, there's gonna be fist fights going down between Jimbo down in Tampa Bay against Billy Ray because why does he get to go to the game and I don't? I want to go see Tom Brady and Gronkowski too. I mean, the whole thing just seems kind of crazy. And so my obvious reaction would be, you got to have all or nothing, right? I mean, it's got to be all or nothing. And to your point you brought up about if people are wearing face masks, and we've had things like rallies around the country, political rallies, or we've had protests around the country, and these are all outdoors events, right? They're outdoor events or not outdoor events where we've had, 6, 7, 8,000 people in an arena, okay, for a political rally. And you can have a situation like that where you're expecting people to wear masks and to social distance. Then by extension, I would say, why can't you have fans in the stands? Why can't you have, yes, like you said, everybody wearing masks and still have 15,000 fans in the seats? and still doing it. You still have restaurants that are opening where people are walking by each other, people are corresponding, and the whole social distancing thing is kind of weird too because it's supposed to be a 6 feet thing. We all know it doesn't get followed. Okay, people, if they have a mask on, you have a feeling of invincibility. When you got that mask on, you think, you know what? I can stroll right up to my buddy or my girlfriend, and I can, or just somebody that I haven't seen in 6 weeks, or in this case, 5 months, because a lot of people have been quarantined.
Yep.
And even if I have a mask on, I'm good. I can stand right up. We can be face to face and can have a conversation. Blah 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 blah. So to me, again, all or nothing. And and as somebody who, not to expose my politics or anything, as someone who's been one of those people that has said, hey, listen to the doctors, listen to the scientists, don't listen to the politicians. That's kind of my thing. At the same time, I also take the perspective, and I was talking about this with one of our buddies on sports radio here in Vegas last week. I'm also one of those people that says you got to look at the logic of, okay, if you can have people out in society doing everyday things and wearing masks, why can't you be in a stadium, an open air stadium with 50, 60,000 people as long as everyone's wearing masks? I'm not talking about the crazy thing where I saw a picture on the web, I think it was yesterday, where the NHL, they're saying NHL fans, they had these air bubble things that you could wear, that they're like 4 feet wide, and you can put these air bubble things on while you're sitting in your seat. I'm not talking about going crazy like that. I'm talking about masks. People wearing masks. It would seem to me a logical thing that if you can have people, again, I don't want to reiterate, but if you can have people outdoors at events and people doing things where they're in close quarters, where they're social distancing for 5 seconds, but then not for 25 seconds, and then social distancing again, there's no reason why you can't do it for a sporting event, in my opinion. So it would...
and you look at Vegas, half the casinos are filled up.
Another perfect example, Quan. Another perfect example. Okay, we're going to close the bars in Nevada and in Las Vegas. We don't, it's not safe for you to be in a bar or sitting at a machine playing some type of video poker or Keno or whatever. But you know what you can do? You can get up from your seat at that bar and you can walk over to the craps table, Quan. And there's 7, 8 people around this craps table. If people got their wives with them or their girlfriends or buddies or whatever, and you can stand at a craps table for hours on end, but you can't go to a bar with a mask on and have a drink by yourself. Look, we all know what society has been the last 5 months. People haven't been able to socialize. It's not been a normal thing for everybody. Yeah. It's been a very different thing as far as interaction with people out and about in society. When you go, first of all, there's been no clubs open in Vegas or around the country. There's been there's been bars open. And again, we're going back to this percentage thing, 50% people. Come on. I live in Vegas. You live in Vegas. I've been in places that were packed to the hilt. Okay. I've been in restaurants. I'm not calling anybody out, but I've been in restaurants here in Vegas where every table's filled. Okay. And there's tons of people around. So the hypocrisy is the word of the last 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Hypocrisy is the word of the last 6 months. And when it comes to sports, we're in a tough spot here because everybody wants to get past the pandemic, right? We all want to have our family and friends be safe and avoid this. Unfortunately, over 140,000 people have lost their lives, and so there's been a number of families that have been impacted. And we know ourselves, whether we're talking about our friends that worked in radio here that are at-risk people, right? Yep. They're older. They, some have pre-existing conditions, and there's a real concern. My parents, I don't know what your situation is with your family, Quan, but mine parents live in Florida, okay? They are some people that don't go out much anyway, so they've been fortunate to avoid the whole situation. They just stay home anyway. But there's real concern among people out there as far as family members and your family and friends. So I get that. But there's this tug of war. It's been a constant tug of war for the past 6 months as to, being safe when it comes to COVID-19, but still we need to find a way, right? We need to find a way to get back some of the aspects of society that we feel we need. And sports is one of those. Sports is one of those. People, every time there's some type of tragedy, whether it's 9/11, whether it's, some type of shooting tragedy, obviously October 1 here in Las Vegas, sports can play an integral part of bringing the community together and getting people back towards some type of normalcy. And so that's what we're kind of dealing with here, and we're smack dab in the middle of it because we're about to start up the major sports again in the United States. So, again, we'll see how it shakes out with Major League Baseball. NBA is going to be interesting from a competitive standpoint because again, these players in the NBA, you're just not used to this type of deal. Playing games, essentially, they're going to be playing games in a ballroom, okay, in Orlando, Florida, in front of no fans, okay? I don't know exactly what the game setup's going to be, like how they're going to be playing, because I've been to the Disney complex down there. I used to live in Orlando for 12 years, so I'm aware of what they have down there facility-wise. And we all understand, much like Vegas, Orlando is a hospitality town, so they were able to adapt as far as hotel rooms, resorts. Every one of these players and teams, you had some NBA players come out and talk smack about their living facilities and their living conditions and comparing it to a Motel 6 and things like that. Let's not get crazy, okay? It's not a Motel 6 over there. They have some decent resorts these players are staying in, and some players are in nicer quarters than others. But it's not a normal situation. It's a crazy situation. These players are not sleeping in their bed. They're not going to be immediately have access to their family members. You've got, NBA greats, like it's not even NBA greats, NBA players as a whole. You have a family, you've got kids. It's a completely different situation that they're being put in right now, and yet we're still going forward as far as a competition standpoint. And people are making predictions. We're saying, well, we're basically there's a lot of chalk going on because we're talking about the Lakers and we're talking about the Clippers and we're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks and maybe toss in a Philadelphia 76ers or a Boston Celtics or even a Miami Heat. But I've talked to some of my friends who are NBA fans, Kwana, it's funny. They're like, why are they even doing this? Why do you have all these teams there, like the Denver Nuggets or the Dallas Mavericks and teams like, well, just have the Bucks, have the four teams, have the Lakers and the Clippers and the Bucks, and then toss in maybe the Celtics, and just play four teams. And just have a super duper playoff type of situation. Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't make total sense, but I can kind of see where they're coming from because it's just it's because it's not a normal situation. It's just crazy.
Well, you want the fans of the other team watching the games, and if you only bring 4 or 8 teams out there, then you're not getting the views that you would get if you have more teams.
And it gives those squads like the Nuggets and the Rockets with Russ, and Harden, it gives them the outside chance, right?
Yeah,
it's that
exactly.
It's that it could be element of surprise that one of those teams ends up winning the NBA championship.
Yep.
Now I talk to my Laker fans, and I have 2 of them in my house. They say that's redonkulous, Chris. Like, come on, the Lakers are taking it. And I'm like, yeah, they're a great team, but Clippers are damn good, man. Clippers are right there. You got NBA champion experience. This isn't your Benoit Benjamin, Marcus Taylor, Keith Kloss, LA Clippers. Okay, this is a quality squad. So, and then you got the Bucks over there in the East. I think the Bucks are the clear favorite in the East. I mean, look, I want to believe that the Sixers, with all their talent there, could make a run. A lot of people talk about the Miami Heat. Obviously, the Celtics, they've got guys that can ball up, but I just look at it. I'm just strictly from just from an eyeball standpoint at this, and that Bucks team just looks really good. So, but we're gonna see. We're gonna find out what exactly goes down. When it comes to the NHL, it's interesting because we've obviously established the 2 cities, that are going to play that they're going to play in. But there hasn't been, and all these teams have been able to have their mini training camps in their own facilities, right? They've been here in Vegas.
Yeah.
We have the Golden Knights. They've been practicing out in Summerlin, and it's correspondingly across all the other teams out there. But we haven't heard any details yet as far as the bubble situation about what they're going to do as far as the players once they get to Edmonton and once they get to Toronto. And it's kind of concerning as a hockey fan out there and for the hockey fans out there because there hasn't been any concrete things put down as far as like games set up or games being, the point being is like you're talking about moving a lot of these teams to another country, right? Where you're crossing borders over into Canada. So there's still things up in the air, say for example,
are we even allowed to travel to Canada yet?
I don't think so. I don't think the average Joe is able to roll across the border, right, and go to Canada and vice versa.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go back and forth. Now, the reason why the NHL has been so confident that they're going to have their season start back up is because of the situation. It's Canada, okay, and it's hockey, and so Justin Trudeau and the powers that be up there are going to make every effort and going to bend over backwards and twist themselves into pretzels so that the NHL is able to restart back up there. And given that they know that they have the two cities where they're going to play. So, but I'm just saying as someone who's an American hockey fan here living in Vegas and haven't heard anything yet about games being started or teams making the move yet up to Canada and getting situated and getting things all started, and there's no date set as far as games or how the schedule is going to go. I'm a little bit worried about that.
There are dates set. It's supposed to start August 1st, but like you said, they haven't even went out there yet. It's not like the NBA where the NBA bubble started weeks ago.
You know what I'm saying?
Got used to it.
They haven't gone into their hotels.
Exactly.
They haven't set up their daily routines up there where it's a foregone conclusion. We can see they're heading towards the starting line here. You know what I mean? That's not the case. That hasn't happened yet with the NHL. So obviously we are focused on the Golden Knights here in Vegas, and we talk about the teams that have a real shot at winning the Stanley Cup, and Vegas happens to be one of those. And we're doing a lot of breakdown of teams and their rosters and how good they can be or how bad they can be. And again, it's much like the NBA. It's not the entire league that's going, right? There's a lot of bottom feeder teams. Kind of interesting how my Detroit teams are not playing in any of these leagues that are shortened seasons that have cut down. My Pistons are just atrocious. The Red Wings are one of the worst teams in the NHL. And those two leagues, my teams. But
you got the Shock, right? Oh no, they're
gone.
Never mind.
They were in Tulsa, and I don't know where they went after that.
I can't keep track.
I want to say San Antonio. I think they went to San Antonio and became the Stars. But then the Stars became the Aces. So they might I don't know. They might still be in Tulsa.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But yes, there's no Detroit teams in the NBA or NHL restart. So we have the Tigers though, Major League Baseball.
Kind of.
Over under 20.5 games, I think. I'm solidly on the under.
Not bad.
Solidly on the under.
Out of 60
I'm not going to lie to you, my friend. I'm solidly on the under with the boys in the Old English D hats. It's solid. And I was loving it, by the way. The LTBB guys, one of them was sporting a Detroit Tiger hat the other day. I was loving that.
Who was wearing that?
I want to say...
Was that Logan?
I want to say it was Dre. I think it was Dre.
Okay.
Yeah. It was either Dre or Goose. No, you know what? It was Goose, I think. It was Goose.
Yeah.
It was Goose that was wearing it. But, so we got baseball starting up tomorrow. The NBA is on the way. It's coming. And it's just going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens with the NBA and how, is there going to be situations like Super Bowl Sundays or Super Bowl weeks where guys are stretching the limits, breaking the rules? Are ladies being brought in, breaking the bubble? What's going to happen, Quan? Who's going to be the team that's going to have all the most guys stirring stuff up?
They've already been
and
called
breaking
the IG
rules.
models.
I'm telling you, man, there's stuff going down in the bubble. That bubble's not completely sealed. You're not going to convince me of that. It's not a situation where everybody is on the up and up and is following all the rules. Pretty sweet setup, though. I saw one of the players was firing down some quality grub. He had some lobster going. I think he had a bone-in ribeye. Like, when they're in the bubble, they're getting taken care of. They've got amenities up the wazoo with those guys out there. But there's so many things that come into play with this NBA bubble. You got 60, 50, 60, 70-year-old coaches and team personnel that are in the bubble, and I'm telling you, they're still at risk. They're still at risk. You can take all the precautions you want, and I get it. All the players have tested negative with COVID-19, but there's people at risk. And the coaches, I know the coaches are all like, I'm fine. I'll be fine. I may be Doc Rivers, or I may be some coach that's 60, 70 years old. I'm going to be fine. I'm worried, man. I think there could be some situations that present themselves. And again, it goes back to the situation of integrity of the game. And you can debate all you want about how important coaches are in the NBA and, about support personnel in the NBA. But if you start missing coaches, or you start missing trainers, you start missing team guys that are there and everybody has the united goal of trying to win a championship, and you're not able to have that, it's going to have an impact on the team. So there's going to be a lot of factors that come into play when it comes to the NBA startup and the NHL startup, and Major League Baseball gets it going tomorrow. It's going to be fun to watch those games tomorrow. You got the Washington Nationals, the Yankees. Yankees a big favorite in the American League, one of the favorites to win the American League pennant, especially now that teams are playing interdivision across the board, because the Yankees are they're much like the Dodgers. I mean, they're just when it comes to across the board, whether it's their everyday players or their pitching staff, loaded up. They got a team. But the Yankees' problem with them is injuries. Injuries the last 2 seasons have just destroyed that team and their potential, particularly with their pitching staff. So you got that game early on, and then you got the matchup, the hated rivalry, Quan, with the Giants and the Dodgers tomorrow. Now, nobody's talking about the Giants. Ever. Because, A, it's not an odd season, right? Or no, they won those. Didn't they win those World Series in even seasons? Wasn't it?
I think they win the odd seasons. It
was, I want to say it was 2010, 2012, because they beat my Tigers in 2012. So
okay.
I want to say it was every 2 years that they won a championship for 3 years, or for 6 years in a row. They won 3 championships. So, but my point doesn't matter, because they're not contenders. The Giants are not good this year. So, but they're playing a team in the Dodgers who I watched against the Angels yesterday. Dodgers, it seems like their lineup has no holes. I mean, everybody in that lineup can do something very good or great. And they just signed, by the way, Mookie Betts.
Mookie got paid.
How about this, Quan? Mike Trout, $425.6 million contract. Mookie Betts just signed a $380 million contract. 380. This is not combined with your endorsements. This is not money you're getting outside. This is your contract to play Major League Baseball, okay? When normal times you're playing for six months out of the year, or 5 months out of the year, okay? And 380 million bones?
During a pandemic? We're just trying to get our unemployment, right?
People are just trying to get their
just give me another stimulus
People are just
check.
trying to get their $475 or whatever it is a month, plus their $600.
I just need another $1,200
which is getting cut
stimulus.
off next week, by the way, it looks like. People are just trying to get that, just trying to scrape by. And there are teams out there giving $380 million deals to 5'10", 195-pound outfielders. Great player. He's a great player. Oh, no, Mookie's a great player. A former MVP, World Series champion with the Red Sox. But it blows my mind to see some of these contracts in baseball. And as someone who was a college athlete who played college football, and someone who played, obviously played 3 sports in high school, not trying to, be, toot my own horn here as far as my athletic career, but it just is amazing. Baseball is not a sport where you have to be in great shape to be a baseball player, okay? David Wells pitched a no-hitter, hungover, possibly still drunk, okay? You see baseball players out there all the time that are not in great shape. I'm not trying to bag on Mookie Betts or, any of these players getting huge contracts. I'm just trying to point out that it's not exactly, you don't have to be some stellar, in-shape, physique guy to be a highly paid Major League Baseball player. It doesn't have to be that way. You can't, now look, there's been Oliver Millers in the NBA, and there's been players, that have been out of shape in the NBA. But for the most part, you got to. They
don't last too long, though.
Yeah, and you pretty much in the NBA and in the NHL and in the NFL, you got to be in some type of shape.
Yeah.
To get to that elite level. And so, it was mind blowing. It was yes, as you pointed out, in the midst of COVID-19, we're seeing Mookie Betts getting $380 million from the Dodgers. The team's loaded up though, man. I mean, they got great players there and great young players, and great, and they got the biggest chip on their shoulder in baseball, given that they've been on the doorstep for like the last 4 or 5 seasons. They get right to the mountaintop, but they just can't kick the other person off it. They can't boot the Houston Astros or that's bad too, man. That's bad too. How bad is that? Look, I'm not a Dodger fan, but I feel for you Dodger fans out there, because that's a horrible way to get hosed. I mean, you got a team that blatantly cheated, and yet it's one of those things where the horse is already out of the barn, so they don't even stop. They can't really do anything.
Altuve was taking some balls to the head too the other day.
Yeah. How about that?
They're getting
hit.
How
about that?
They're getting hit.
In these preseason games they're calling, Quan, I think 4 Astros got drilled, right, in that game the other day.
Yeah.
They're already drilling the Astro players, and it's not even the regular season yet. The Astros got over, man, because they are lucky there's no fans in the stands for these games, because they would be getting lit up by the fans. We'd see all types of creative approaches to what's gone down,
and it's going to be forgotten about in a year when fans are allowed back in.
Yeah, because it's the time heals everything.
Exactly.
Adjustment, right, where people make where they just forget about it, or nobody cares anymore.
Yep.
And that's kind of the element to why the Astros won the World Series. All of us other baseball fans of other teams were like, yeah, the Astros screwed up and they were wrong, and that was BS what happened with the Astros. But I'm not going to die on the hill where I'm going out and saying, well, strip it and give it to the Dodgers or give it to another team. It's just it's kind of the same thing with the Fab Five of Michigan back in the 90s, where it's like the team is great. Okay, players got money, whatever, off the court stuff went down. That was shady. And that, by the way, probably goes down in a lot of major college programs. But that was a great team, and they accomplished, they got to 2 Final Fours with that team, and it's not something that's ever going to be forgotten by Michigan basketball fans and by college basketball fans and by college basketball fans around the country, even fans of the Rebels here at UNLV, where that team was beloved. I mean, the Fab Five team was a lot of college basketball fans love those teams, and so to your point, where you're saying time heals everything, and people forget about it. Nobody cares now. I mean, nobody cares about what went down as far as whether it was Weber or anybody else on that team getting paid or stuff going down. It didn't matter. So,
and the fans don't care if they get paid or,
No,
we didn't. No. The fans didn't care about the steroid era. We liked it.
Yeah, I mean, we remember it perfectly. I mean, I think in the back of our minds we knew that there were steroids in the game, but we
helped the game out.
But we just kind of put it. We said, yeah, it's happening, but it's not like all the media's covering it or blowing it up or making a big deal of it. So it's going on. So be it. But this is really cool watching Sammy and watching McGuire and watching Brady Anderson hit 51 home runs, and watching these guys go out there. It's fun to watch. So we kind of just dismiss it in our heads. And that's kind of the way it went down. And only till now where we're in a super hyper media world, right? Where we're doing documentaries now. We're doing 30 for 30s, and we're exposing everything that went down, where we're really starting to focus on it, or starting to remember it again.
Yeah.
You know, but you just like you and I, we were. I mean, I was in my 20s back then. I didn't care. I mean, I wasn't thinking about, oh, it's destroying the game of baseball having steroids in it, or having. The way I looked at it was, there's pitchers doing it too.
Yeah.
So if there's pitchers doing it,
the game
and
out.
there's batters doing it, then maybe there's some rationale you can use here, where it's in the game, and that's essentially what happened, because Major League Baseball just went on. Guys got reprimanded, and some people got suspended, and now it's affecting people as far as their Hall of Fame eligibility and stuff like that. But back then, it wasn't. Major League Baseball wasn't making a big deal about it. We as fans weren't making a big deal about it. American society wasn't making a huge deal about steroids in baseball. So
bring steroids back.
Yeah. Hey, if everybody can do it, if everybody can do it, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, one person's steroid, one person's performance-enhancing drug is another person's, only way to even function physically, because they have ailments or something, or or they're battling some type of condition where. It's not always. There's this assumption that when you talk about performance-enhancing drugs, it's always about, you're just getting over, and you're just it's making you this bigger, stronger, faster player. Not necessarily. No. A lot of it's used for recovery and other things like that. So I don't anticipate, Quan, there's going to be too much talk tomorrow and moving forward in the Major League Baseball season, though, about PEDs, given that they've kind of they're trying to lock it down a little bit and get back to the game and focus on the game, given that we're in a pandemic here. So it's been a lot of fun. Had a chance to kind of riff on a bunch of stuff, Quan. Talk about what sports is going to be doing with COVID-19. It's still here, man. It's still here. It's not gone. It's not, and it doesn't look like we're on the back end of it yet. It's not like it's something where it's a declining issue or a declining scenario around the country.
And the summer heat didn't kill it like they said that it would.
It didn't work, right? It didn't work. They thought.
Because it's 300 outside here.
It is about 375 degrees every day here in Vegas, man.
So we should be COVID-free out here.
There should be nothing. Yeah. It should be killed on the spot. When we walk outside and I put my mask on, anything that is COVID-19 related, or, hey, by the way, any other virus for that matter, should be dead on the spot.
Yeah. Because
it's 175 degrees when I walk outside, and it continues until about 9 o'clock at night, till about when we started this show. It was still probably 85, 90. So you're right. That hasn't had an impact. COVID-19 hasn't had an impact, but we're moving forward. Sports is on the way.
Yeah.
And we got baseball tomorrow, and we'll see what kind of arm Dr. Fauci has there at Nationals Park,
and if he's wearing a mask.
I think he's going to wear a mask.
And social distancing.
They should have a prop, at least overseas, at some overseas book, about, I put it at minus 250. He's wearing a mask when he goes out to the mound there and chucks it. I'm wondering, is he lefty or right? That's what I'm worried about.
He might not know.
He might not know, because look, the guy's been focused on his medical career, right, and his medical education his whole life. He might not have ever thrown a baseball or ever thrown anything. So, yeah, I don't know if he's right or lefty, and we don't know what. And is he gonna throw just a bean up there? Is he gonna throw
I don't think it makes
a 65 mile an hour straight line strike, or is it going to be like 50 Cent, where he just airmails it into the fifth row?
I don't think he makes it to the catcher.
At Citi Field.
He doesn't make it to the catcher.
I don't think so either. No. I think he's going to try, though.
He'll try.
He's going to try. It's not going to be let's put it this way. It's not going to be a George W. Bush deal, where he threw he's going to throw a legitimate strike up there. So Nationals, Yankees tomorrow, Giants, Dodgers, and then we'll see, Quan, what happens. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you.
Man. Got to get you
on
back
Wednesday.
in here.
I got to come in.
Yes, sir.
I got to hang with the other crew, too. The other guys are fun, too.
Let the ball bounce.
Yes. Give my perspective. Like jumping in. Those guys, I love it, though, when they start talking social issues and stuff. I get fired up. I start jumping into my laptop and wanted to chime in. So this has been Straight Bet Sports with Jose V. Jose's back next week, I would expect. He should be here.
Hopefully.
And I'm sure he's going to want to weigh in on all things NBA. He'll probably talk a little baseball too. And he'll have his take on what's going down. Hope everyone out there is staying safe with your families. Quan, your family as well too. Yourself, stay safe. And everybody here at Gorilla Cross Radio is handling the situation because it's not ideal. Let's be honest. It's not ideal. It's a tough situation. And kind of power through it and see where we come out here on the other end. And let's get this vaccine out there, right? Let's get that vaccine so people can have a stable mindset and feel better about this as we move forward.
If you choose to take it.
Yeah, which is a big question mark because there's a lot of people out there that are already saying, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna fly by the seat of my pants and take my chances and go from there. So I'm looking forward though to the NBA action. It's just gonna be great to see our American athletes, right? Well, I mean, look, we've seen some MMA, we've seen some other sports, but it's the big four that we're fired up about. You get to see LeBron on the court again. You get to see Russ. You get to see, obviously Giannis and the great players across the board in the NBA. Hockey fans, you'll eventually see your players out there too. So we get sports back at least in a way, right? And we get to see it. So we'll check it out. We'll move forward. Everybody have a great Wednesday. And Jose, Straight Bet Sports will be back a week from today. Have a good night, everybody.